This week marks the third anniversary of these Divrei Torah. Started Parshas Yisro, and now we're Be'ezus Hashem beginning the third cycle, Baruch Hashem, Ken Yerbo. So I heard a beautiful idea from my Rosh Yeshiva Reg Rumbat this week, and when I heard it, I said I have to share it with the audience. So we have one of the stories in this week's Parsha is the story where Yisro comes to Klal Yisrael, and he sees the way Moshe sits and judges the people, and Moshe judges everyone by himself. He sits and judges everybody, and Yisro says to Moshe that this is not, how could you sit alone and have everybody wait on you from morning till evening? This is not good for you, it's not good for the Jewish people. So there are different ways to approach what's the back and forth here between Moshe and Yisro. What did Yisro see that Moshe didn't that caused him to make this suggestion to bring before HaKadosh Baruch Hu that he should delegate out some of the judging of the smaller cases rather than do everything himself? So, Reg Rumbat brought a Chiddushei HaLev, written by my Rosh Yeshiva by Luban, the Shmuzim of Rav Henoch Leibowitz Zt. I personally don't have this in my version of the Chiddushei HaLev, but is what it is. So Rashi says the pshat in the pasuk Vayeshev Moshe Lispod Ha'am that Vayamod Ha'am, the people stood. There's an idea that when people are being judged, so the litigants stand and the judges sit. But the pasuk says, so what was the problem here? Yisro saw the people waiting on Moshe, and he thought it was a zilzul in the kavod of Klal Yisrael, that he thought it was degrading somewhat for the honor of the Jewish people to be standing and waiting for Moshe all day. And that's why he rebuked Moshe that Moshe should ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu if he can delegate rather than take all the cases himself. And the Marshal says that even though normally the litigants always stand, but over here it was different. I believe what the Marshal is saying, he says, since he was a Don Yechidi, they were standing even when it wasn't the Shas Hadin. That they would basically be standing and waiting for him, for their opportunity. They could spend the whole day standing and waiting for Moshe Rabbeinu. So the Rosh Yeshiva's understanding it, I believe that Moshe Rabbeinu was saying that he wants to give up of his own ruchnius and his own delgation HaKadosh Baruch Hu in order to give the Jewish people this opportunity to benefit from learning from him directly and all the uplifting elements that come with that special connection to Moshe Rabbeinu himself. And Yisro saw, though, that this is bad for the Jewish people because at the end of the day, it's degrading for the people, I guess, on their level, in their place, for them to stand and wait in line all day, for them, he felt was inappropriate and unhealthy for them. So Rosh Yeshiva said that we see that Yisro was followed in this case. So how could it be, though? How could it be that giving up the ruchnius of that special asking Moshe Rabbeinu for all their cases, how could it be worth it to give that up? Apparently we see Yisro felt that for the zilzul of Klal Yisrael, because it's degrading for them on some level, therefore it's worth it to give that up. So Shiva said it doesn't make any sense. At the end of the day, why are we here? The Mesos Shalom points out, we're here for our ruchnius, we're here for the next world, we're not here for this world. The whole purpose of life is to elevate ourselves in our spiritual development, to become better people. So what could be more worthwhile than whatever we need for our ruchnius? Of course it's worth it for them to stand online in order to gain from Moshe Rabbeinu. Wouldn't we do the same thing? Wouldn't we bring our children to wait in line to meet a gadol? And second of all, at the end of the day, there's also a benefit in kavod to meeting Moshe Rabbeinu and learning Torah from him directly. It's an opportunity that you would want to be able to tell your children that, I'm happy to say that I shook hands with Rav Yoshev, that I once asked Rav Tzvi Finkel a question. It's something precious. So whatever zilzul in the kavod there is, there's also that counterbalance of the benefit of the kavod. So Yisro obviously was paskening that differently than Moshe Rabbeinu, that the zilzul was bigger. But at the end of the day, it's a small thing. How could it be worth giving up such a tremendous opportunity to have that bond with Moshe Rabbeinu and have that experience with Moshe Rabbeinu? So the Rosh Yeshiva explained that the kavod of the person's self-esteem, their self-respect, is maybe from the most fundamental building blocks of how a person achieves shleimus, how he achieves his perfection that he's supposed to achieve. Rabbeinu Yonah, in the Sefer Shari Avodah, he talks about the first gate, the Pesach Rishon, that a person needs to grow in his Avodah of Hashem. And he says it's for a person to know Erech Atzmo, to know his own worth, and V'yakir Malas, to recognize his upliftedness. Umaylas Avosav Gedulasam Chashivasam V'chibasam Eitzel Bar Yisbarach, and the uplifted nature of his family lineage from his forefathers, their greatness, their honor, their belovedness before Hashem. That should be a person's mindset. That's one of the most fundamental. That's the Pesach Rishon to greatness. Because when a person has that mindset, then one of the benefits will be that when he has a desire to sin, he'll be embarrassed from himself. He'll be embarrassed for his forefathers. If he feels that certain things are beneath him, then he won't do that. A person's feelings of greatness keep him in line, and they prevent him from crossing there are certain boundaries that people won't cross if they have enough self-respect. And at the same time, when a person's lacking in that kavod ha'adam, then it can bring him to the most chamor dekaveros. We find the Gemara says that ha'ocha b'shuk pasal yedus, a person who eats in the street. You imagine a guy walks down the street eating a slice of pizza. A person like that is pasal yedus. Why can't they be a witness in court? Rashi explains, since they're not careful about their own honor, they're not afraid to do things. They could come to do the most serious of averos. Imagine they're going to lie in a courtroom under oath. That a person could do that because of the fact that he doesn't have the proper self-respect, he doesn't have the proper boundaries. And therefore, there's this concept that the Jewish people's honor was so important to their growth in Ruchnias that it could be worth it to give up that opportunity for Ruchnias from learning Torah directly with Moshe Rabbeinu to be able to ask him a question is worth giving up, because the lack of the degradation that they could feel, the zilzul, could be even more damaging to them and to their Shmiras HaMitzvos and their overall Ruchnias. And it's a very important concept, I think, that the way that we view ourselves and our self-respect is very fundamental to our Avodas Hashem. I remember after Hurricane Sandy, we went, a chevra of 6 yeshiva guys, we went to the 5 towns area to help clean out a basement that had been devastated. And we went, and there was a Hasidic guy brought us 2 grunts to help with the physical labor. I remember he bought us 2 pizza pies. And one of the 8 guys, 2 pizza pies. And we went, after we were ready to take a lunch break, wash the hands off, plaster on the hands, it was disgusting. And these chevra, by the time we got back, after watching a motzi, these chevra, they'd already polished through 1 pie. They were in the middle of working on the 2nd pie. There's a certain complete lack of self-respect to eat with all that grime on their hands. It was disgusting. And with that came a tremendous lack of caring about other people on any level whatsoever. If the person doesn't care about themselves, how will they be able to care about other people? It gave me a new appreciation into, say, Shalom Asani Guy, but also to realize there are certain elements of society which unfortunately maybe don't have enough self-respect for whatever socio-demographic reasons, and it shows that there are certain lines that they're comfortable crossing that they wouldn't cross if they had more self-respect. I think it's an important thing to keep in mind when looking at others, and I think also that it's interesting, this element that sometimes something could be good for our ruchnius, but there might be other factors why. Since if a person's going to feel bad about himself in a certain situation, maybe even though he'd learn an extra hour a day, if he was in that environment or in that situation, maybe it's not worth it for him. Maybe it'll be yotza scharo b'efsedo, because at the end of the day, if he doesn't, the self-respect is also an important piece, a fundamental piece of the person's aliyah as a human being. Maybe zocha to increase our kavod for ourselves, appreciate who we are, appreciate the greatness we have within ourselves, and use it to make boundaries in our Avodas Hashem and to grow in the proper path. Have a wonderful Shabbos.